Welcome to another edition of Ready to Read Aloud, sponsored by Fort Worth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. Do you like music? Have you ever wanted to play an instrument or do something really great, but you didn't think you could? Well, this autobiography about Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews will really inspire you. Pop quiz. If this is an autobiography, then who is the author? Let's practice some wait time. Do you know? Yes! Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews is the author. He wrote this book about himself so you can learn about him. And guess what? The really cool illustrations are by a fantastic illustrator, Brian Collier. In this book, you'll discover that at just 6 years old, Troy Trombone Shorty became the headliner at the New Orleans Jazz Fest. He went on to become the band leader of his very own band at just 6. So that means, guys, you can do anything. He not only became the headliner at the New Orleans Jazz Fest, he also became Grammy nominated. That means he got one of the biggest awards in music ever. Our reader today actually knows Trombone Shorty. Evan Anderson is a Fort Worth native and a graduate of Dillard University right in New Orleans, Louisiana. Dillard University is what's known as an HBCU, or historically black college. Evan is a reporter and news anchor at NBC 5 News right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I hope this book encourages you to dream big because you can do anything. Now, let's jump into another good book.
We have our own way of living down here in New Orleans and our own way of talking too. And that's what we like to say when we want to tell you, tell a friend, hello. So where you at? Lots of kids have nicknames, but I want to tell you the story of how I got mine, just like when you listen to your favorite song. So let's start from the beginning because this is a story about music. But before you can understand how much music means to me, you have to know how important it is to my hometown, my greatest inspiration. I grew up in a neighborhood in New Orleans called Trombone. Any time of day or night, you could hear music floating in the air. And there was music in my house too. My big brother James played the trumpet so loud you could hear him halfway across town. He was the leader of his own band, and my friends and I would pretend to be in the band too. Follow me, James would say. There's one time every year that's more exciting than any other. Mardi Gras. Parades fill the streets and beaded necklaces are thrown through the air to the crowds. I love the brass bands with their own trumpets, trombones, saxophones, and the biggest brass instrument of them all, the tuba, which rested over the musician's head like an elephant's trunk. Where you at? They say, the musicians will call out. All day long, I could see brass bands parade by my house while my neighbors danced along. I love these parades during Mardi Gras because they made everyone forget about their troubles, even if it was just for a little while. People didn't have a lot of money in Trombone, but we always had a lot of music. I listened to all these sounds and mixed them together just like how we make our own food. We take one big pot and throw in sausage, crabs, shrimp, chicken, vegetables, rice, whatever's in the kitchen, and stir it all together and let it cook. When it's all done, it's the most delicious taste you've ever tried. We call it gumbo, and that's what I wanted my music to sound like. Different styles combined to create my own musical gumbo. But first, I needed an instrument. The great thing about music is that you don't even need a real instrument to play. So my friends and I decided to make our own. We might have sounded different from the real brass bands, but we felt like the greatest musicians of Trombone. We were making music, and that's all that mattered. Then one day, I found a broken trombone that looked too beaten up to make music anymore. It didn't sound perfect, but finally, with the real instrument in my hand, I was ready to play. The next time the parade went by my house, I grabbed that trombone and headed out into the street. My brother James noticed me playing along and smiled proudly. "Trombone Shorty," he called out because the instrument was twice my size. "Where you at?" From that day on, everyone called me Trombone Shorty. I took that trombone everywhere I went and never stopped playing. I was so small that sometimes I fell right over to the ground because it was so heavy, but I always got back up and I learned to hold it up high. I listened to my brother play songs over and over, and I taught myself those songs too. I practiced day and night, and sometimes I fell asleep with my trombone in my hands. One day, my mom surprised me with tickets to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the best and biggest music festival in town. We went to see Bo Diddley, who my mom said was one of the most important musicians of all time. As I watched him on stage, I raised my trombone to my lips and started to play along. He stopped his band in the middle of the song and asked the crowd, "Who's that playing out there?" Everyone started pointing, but Bo Diddley couldn't see me because I was the smallest one in the place. So my mom held me up in the air and said, "That's my son, Trombone Shorty." "Well, Trombone Shorty, come on up here," Bo Diddley said. The crowd passed me overhead until I was standing on the stage next to Bo Diddley himself. I walked right up to the microphone and held my trombone high up in the air, ready to blow. "What do you want to play?" Bo Diddley asked. "Follow me," I said. After I played with Bo Diddley, I knew I was ready to have my own band. I got my friends together and we called ourselves the 5 o'clock band because that was the time we went out to play each day after finishing our homework. We played all around New Orleans. I practiced, and soon my brother James asked me to join his band. When people wondered who the kid in his band was, he'd probably say, "That's my little brother, Trombone Shorty." And now I have my own band called Trombone Shorty and Orleans Avenue, named after a street in Tremay. I played all around the world, but I always came back to New Orleans. And when I'm home, I make sure to keep my eyes on the younger musicians in town and help them out, just like my brother did for me. Today, I play at the same New Orleans Jazz Festival where I once played with Bo Diddley. And when the performance ends, I'll lead a parade of musicians around just like I used to do in the streets of Tremay with my friends. I still keep my trombone in my hands, and I will never let it go. I hope you enjoyed Trombone Shorty by Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews from his own words.